ഒന്നും കേൾക്കണില്ലല്ലോ.
Welcome, Dr. Radhika. Hi, Gopika. Thanks for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me here. When are we supposed to start?
Just let's give it 5 minutes. Let's have people
Okay.
join in.
Yeah, just let me know.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll give it another 10 minutes to let all our people join. Thank you. All right. So, doctor, we'll be beginning around 3:10, 3:15, if that's okay with you. I'll intimate you.
Yeah,
Audience,
that's all.
please stay tuned. All right, let's begin. Dr. Radhika.
Yeah, just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Yeah, just joining. Yeah, just 1 minute.
Sure. In the meantime, everybody, welcome, good evening,
Hi.
and thank you for joining in this webinar. Thank you, Dr. Radhika, for joining us. So, as you all know, this webinar is hosted by Cartula Health India, and I am Devana Gupta, Client Success Manager there. This is the sixth session in our series of webinars, and the topic for today is care of newborns. So, talking a little bit about Cartula Health India, it's a part of the Australian owned company, Cartula International. We are committed towards bringing better healthcare to India by providing last mile delivery of healthcare services. Our apps are successfully launched and freely downloadable on the Google Play Store. There's a telemedicine app that connects doctors and patients, and Cartula Janani, which is a free pregnancy and childbirth tracker. Do have a look, download them. That being said, today's session will be presented by Dr. Radhika Batra. She's an expert pediatrician from New Delhi. She's the founder and president of Every Infant Matters, a non-profit organization which is uplifting disadvantaged children worldwide. She's a Forbes Asia 30 Under 30 honoree and a One Young World ambassador. I request her to begin the presentation. Over to you, Doctor.
Hi, thanks for the stellar introduction, Devana. It was very kind. And I'm very glad that Kachila India has given me this opportunity to speak to all its viewers and all the users of the app. And when I was asked to pick a topic for presentation related to pediatrics, the first thing I thought was that I should talk about how do you care for a newborn and how you adapt to your life once a newborn enters it. Because for most mothers, it's a very overwhelming time, specific more so when it's their first baby, because everything is new. They don't know what is normal for a newborn child and what is not normal for a newborn child. So that is something which I've tried to cover in my presentation. And what I've done is I've spoken about what a normal newborn is like and what are some of the common problems that are encountered in a normal newborn, and what are some of the benign irregularities that parents often worry about and they shouldn't worry about. So I've covered those, and then I've gone on to talk about how you can recognize signs of a serious illness in your newborn. What are the danger signs? So I've covered that aspect as well. So I'll begin with the presentation now. And, Devana, just, I think, keep the chat box open. And if anybody has any questions, they can just put it in the chat box, or they can interrupt me at any time whenever they want. And I'll be free, I'll be, open to taking questions as and when
Absolutely.
required.
Audience,
Okay.
please feel free to ask any questions at
Yeah.
any point of time.
Yeah. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Just let me know if it's visible.
Yes, doctor, it's visible now.
Are the slides changing?
Right.
Right. So we are going to talk about how do we care for a normal newborn. So I'm going to stress on the fact that we are talking about a normal, healthy baby of an adequate birth weight, that is 2.5 kgs or above. And we're not talking about a preterm baby. We're not talking about a sick baby, and we're not talking about any, malformed baby or anything other than the ordinary. And so this is how, when a healthy child is given back to the mother to take home, what are you supposed to do and how you're supposed to care for it is what I'll be covering. Of course, with a child who has certain other issues, there has to be special care. So that is, of course, beyond the scope of this presentation. And of course, if the viewers want, I could take a separate session on different conditions of newborns. But right now, we'll just focus on a normal, healthy baby. So when we talk about a neonate or a newborn, the first 28 days of life are the neonatal period. So this is a critical period because the baby is transitioning from the intrauterine life, where it was cocooned in the mother's womb, where it had all the safety and everything, into the outside harsh world, which is, there are a lot of environmental stresses in the world. There are a lot of other stresses in the world. The feeding has to be done properly. So this time is critical because the baby is transitioning from intrauterine to extrauterine life, and it has to adapt to breathe and survive in that environment. So the first 28 days of life are extremely critical for any baby. And while the baby is still in the mother's uterus, the perinatal period, that means the 28 weeks of pregnancy onward, are very critical again. Because any kind of extenuating circumstances for the mother can now affect the baby in a very, very adverse way. So the mother has to be very, very extra careful 22 weeks onwards, and also in the first 3 months. So what we say to all mothers is that the first 3 months is when your baby's organs and brain are starting to develop. So in the first 3 months, whatever you eat, whatever you consume, whatever your mood is, everything will affect the way the baby is formed. And after 22 weeks, it's all set to come out. So it's quite big now. Now, if you have any kind of illness, injury, anything, that's going to affect the outcome of your pregnancy. So both the times are extremely important, and the first 7 days, of course, are very, very crucial. So, in pediatrics, we define a term. A term baby is a normal, healthy baby. A preterm baby that is born before time. जैसे वो बोलते हैं ना कि 7 महीने पे बच्चा पैदा हो गया था, तो that is a preterm baby, and it could be before 37 weeks of pregnancy. A term baby is essentially 37 to 42 weeks of pregnancy. And then there is a term called a post-term baby, that is after 42 weeks की समय के बाद बच्चा पैदा हो रहा है. तो उसमें उसके अलग कॉम्प्लिकेशंस हैं. प्री टर्म के ऑफ कोर्स अपने अलग कॉम्प्लिकेशंस रहते हैं. Term is what we're dealing with here, a normal healthy baby born on time at the end of 9 months, weighing more than 2.5 kg, is what we're dealing with in this session today. More definitions just for overview. This is of course very it's all medical, but I just like to tell you that your doctor may tell you that you've had an SGA baby. So SGA is small for gestational age, AGA is appropriate for gestational age, and LGA is large for gestational age. So gestational age is basically the number of weeks the baby has been in the mother's womb. So if your doctor says that you've had an SGA baby, means the baby is smaller than it should be, less than 10 centile for gestational age. So, for a smaller baby, you have to be, of course, much more careful, because a smaller baby will be more prone to infections, it will be more prone to jaundice, more prone to many diseases. You have to be way more careful with a smaller baby. A larger baby, of course, comes with its own problems. A larger baby is, more than 4 kg, 4.5 kg baby. Now, these are the babies who are usually born to a diabetic mother or an obese mother. So that baby has its own problems. Now, depending upon the birth weight, like I said, a normal birth weight is 2.5 to 3.9 kg. Anything less than 2.5 is low birth weight. And anything less than 1.5 is very low birth weight. Less than 1 kg is extremely low birth weight. Right. So these are just depending upon the birth weight. This is how we classify the babies. And this is a picture of a very low birth weight baby weighing around, I would say, 1100 to 1200 grams. And of course, they need special neonatal ICU care, and they need a lot of special equipment for them to transition into a normal birth weight baby. So, just to take you through what are the components of newborn care, which I'll be discussing in detail stepwise. First is, of course, at the time of delivery, there should be a clean delivery, essentially, preferably done at a hospital setup with clean cord care, right? So we don't want those dyes and those midwives taking up deliveries. And, in the villages, they don't have aseptic precautions, they don't have proper equipment. So they're cutting the cord with, asterile, non-sterile scissors or knives, and then that leads to infections later on. And essentially, the babies get very, very sick. So the first step is that you make the process of delivery and the cord care as hygienic as possible. Now, once the baby is out, maintenance of its body temperature is very important, because a baby does not have the kind of temperature regulation that you and I have. So essentially, it can get very cold very soon, and it can go into hypothermia, and that hypothermia can even be fatal. So you have to be very careful about the temperature. I'll tell you how we maintain temperature for a baby. Then, of course, skin care. A baby's skin is very fragile, it's very delicate. You have to be very, very careful. You cannot use any harsh cloths, you cannot you cannot scrub it rigorously. A lot of things are there for skin care. care of the umbilical stump. So once the cord has been clamped, that umbilical stump, it has a tendency to get infected in many children. So that has to be, you have to be careful about keeping that area dry, and at least till 5 to 10 days, till it, it ultimately dries and falls off. So you have to be careful about it till it falls off. And care of the eyes, of course, because the baby's eyes are very, very prone to infection, conjunctivitis, a lot of things. You have to be careful about the eyes. Breastfeeding, of course, is one of the most important components of newborn care. I'm going to talk about it in detail later on. Recording the weight, how you can expect the baby to grow weight wise. You have to be aware of how to identify serious illnesses in your child and when to be aware. Of course, you have to be very, very particular about getting your child immunized on time. There is no more effective prevention of deadly diseases than immunization. I'm going to stress on that several times. Immunization is the most important thing after breastfeeding that you have to do for your child to save it from deadly diseases and to enable it to have a very good and healthy life later on. And of course, supplements and follow up, which are given to all babies to make sure their growth is adequate. So let's start with the care at birth and delivery room care. So you have to make sure that the delivery room, I mean, this is of course not the mother's job, but she should just be a little aware that wherever she is delivering, it should be clean, it should be hygienic, it should be well ventilated, adequately lit, and it should be a warm room. Warmth is the single most important criteria here after hygiene. Warmth is very, very important because immediately when the baby leaves the warm environment of its mother's womb and comes out, it can immediately go into hypothermia, especially if it's a place like Delhi or a cold area in January where it's not warm enough for the baby. Then of course once the baby is out, you have to stabilize its temperature. So you have to there's a process called swaddling where you cover the baby in pre-warmed linen. So the linen has to be pre-warmed and the baby has to be covered in that linen and has to be adequately covered. I'll show you a picture later on. Suction is done in hospital setups. Of course, that's the pediatrician's job. And you have to cut the umbilical cord. You have to weigh the baby and classify it as preterm, postterm, SGA, AGA. And you have to assess the baby under warmth for any problems. That's, of course, our job. So this is, of course, a picture of a LSCS take place. And as you can see, the baby is just coming out. The pediatrician is catching it, and now it will be taken to pre-warmed linen and wrapped and given to the mother as soon as possible. So once a baby has been born and he's cried at birth, so a lot of babies require certain assistance during birth because they don't cry at birth. So that of course comes into a sick newborn category. But we're talking about a normal baby who has cried well at birth, is nice and pink, has a good muscle tone, right? So as soon as the baby is delivered and the cord is clamped, as within few minutes the baby is wrapped in pre-warmed linen and put on the mother's chest with skin to skin contact. So this is to ensure that the temperature is maintained. So the mother's body heat helps in maintaining the baby's temperature. So that is something called kangaroo mother care. And you have to dry the baby. The baby is covered with a lot of secretions, blood, everything. So it is dried. It's covered with dry pre-warmed linen, skin to skin contact, like I just told you. And of course, if there are any secretions in the airway, we suction the airway for this purpose. Right. Now, the babies who sometimes require a certain amount of help to make them cry at birth, they require a little bit of suctioning, drying, stimulation, oxygen sometimes. So this is all something which may or may not be required by a child. That, of course, your pediatrician will tell you that what are the steps we had to take at the time of birth. So you should be aware. At the time of birth, what were the steps taken to ensure the smooth transition, and what was the resuscitative measures taken, if any, because that can impact the child later on in life. So you should be aware. You should always ask your pediatrician, was the transition from intrauterine to extrauterine life smooth, or did it require any assistance? So that is an important point here. Now let's come to normal newborn, and within the first 2 hours, breastfeeding must be initiated. And this is very, very, very important because the first breast milk that comes out is known as colostrum. And colostrum contains IgA antibodies, which confer very great deal of immunity to a newborn, and it lasts lifelong. So if that colostrum and that first breastfeeding is missed, then that is not a good thing. It should be given within the first 1 to 2 hours, right? There should be no less than 2 hours. Maybe you don't need to feed it. It can maintain its glucose level on its own. So before the first mother feed, there's no pre-lactal feed essential. There's no need of giving any water to the child. This is a common mistake that many parents make, that they give the child water. The breast milk is a holistic food for a baby for the first 6 months of life. The baby doesn't need water, it doesn't need anything extra apart from the breast milk. The breast feeding should be done on demand, 2 to 3 hours, every 2 to 3 hours as the baby cries, sometimes even earlier. If the baby is crying and it's hungry, you have to feed the baby. You have to feed the baby each side, each breast, 15 to 20 minutes. Now, this is important because each side, when you're feeding your baby, 20 to 30 minutes is the required time, because the first 10-15 minutes, the milk which comes is rich in a particular set of nutrients, and the last 10 minutes are rich in a particular set of nutrients. So it's important to feed the baby from each side at least 20 minutes. And after the feeding, burping is essential. So there's of course a burping process which is taught to all new mothers, because if they don't burp the child often vomits out the milk. So you have to be very careful about burping, otherwise vomiting and regurgitation of feeds is a very big problem in normal babies. And the breastfeeding should be done adequately. Do not keep the child hungry. This is very important. Every 1.5 hour, 2 hour, as much as the baby wants, it should be fed. It should not be kept hungry. It should not be allowed to cry and ask for food. It should be given before it can ask. Right, so this is of course a picture of a breastfeeding lady, and you can see the attachment is very good in this picture. Many mothers initially, when they have their first child, they're not able to breastfeed. They come with complaints of कि मैम ये पकड़ नहीं रहा है या ये ले नहीं रहा है या मैं तो ट्राई कर रही हूँ मेरा दूध नहीं बन रहा है. तो इसमें क्या होता है ना, that when the body is structured that way, that if as much as the baby will suckle, that will send a response to the brain to produce more and more milk. So you should let the baby suckle even if no milk is coming, or if the mother is saying ki milk is not adequate or it's not coming out, you let the baby suckle. As much as the baby suckles, that will initiate that milk production response in the brain, and that will lead to more milk production. Right. So let's come to one of the very, very important aspects of a newborn, of care of a newborn, and that is maintenance of body temperature. Like I explained, newborns don't have that temperature regulatory mechanism as adults have, and they can go into cold shock, hypothermia very, very fast. So that has to be avoided. How do we do that? First of all, the delivery room has to be warm. The baby has to be kept in pre-warmed linen as soon as the baby is born. And after the baby is given to the mother, kangaroo mother care is very important. That is skin to skin contact between mother and baby. I have a picture of it here. Just show you. Yeah, this is kangaroo mother care, where the mother is holding the baby on her chest with skin to skin contact, so that the mother's body heat can be transferred to the baby. This is a very effective way of making sure that the baby does not feel cold and doesn't go into hypothermia. Right, cover adequately and dress. Very important. There should be socks, there should be mittens, there should be a cap. Even if it's warm, even if the weather is warm, you have to dress the baby adequately, because the baby loses a lot of heat from its feet, its hands, and its head. So socks, gloves, and um, caps are very, very important. You can touch the baby's feet and check. If the feet are cold, means the baby is cold. So just wrap the baby in a blanket or make him adequate layers, so that to avoid that. On the first day, a bath can be avoided, specifically if the baby is slightly of a lower birth weight. So the first day you can avoid a bath. You can just clean the blood, mucus, and meconium with the sterile sponge, and the next day you can give a bath using warm water, lukewarm water, unmedicated soap. Baby soap aata hai, and baby shampoo of course can be used. And of course, for the first few days, sponging is also sufficient. There's no need to give an elaborate bath. You can give a good sponge using good sterile linen on sterile sponges, and that should be enough. Now, when a baby is born, it's covered with this white waxy substance called vernix. So vernix is quite adherent to the skin. I have a picture of vernix somewhere. I'll just find. Yeah, this is vernix. So vernix, of course, should not be vigorously, scrubbed off, because it sort of prevents the baby from losing body heat. So it's okay to let it be on for a day or so. And ultimately, as go on cleaning the baby, it sort of washes off on its own. So you don't have to be vigorously scrubbing about it, because that will cause abrasions and that will harm the baby's skin. So that's an important thing. And of course, if there are abrasions, you can use a antibiotic cream. Nothing too severe to be done about it. And this is what I was talking about. This is a swaddled baby. Swaddling is a process where you cover the baby in totality with pre-warmed linen or any blanket or anything. So if you feel like the baby is cold, like if the feet are cold or the head is cold, you just wrap the baby in linen and you make sure the head is covered, the feet are covered. Like, you make a little packet out of it, like I've made here in this picture. So you have to make a packet out of the baby, and you have to, fold it in a way. There's of course a technique of swaddling which nurses and pediatricians use, but as you can see, it's not all that tough. You can just wrap the baby any way you like. This is of course kangaroo mother care. Like I told you, this is one of the most effective ways of preventing hypothermia. This is vernix. And okay, so we come to other aspects of care of newborn. One, of course, is cord care. Now, at birth, the umbilical cord is clamped and it is cut. And when the baby is given to you, you have a little clamp there. It looks like a big safety pin, and you have a piece of the cord hanging. So you have to keep inspecting it every 2 to 4 hours if there's any bleeding from the cord. If there's any bleeding, you must inform your doctor. And you do not have to do any elaborate dressing on the cord. You don't have to cover it with gauze. You don't have to put any medication. Just you can ask your doctor to clean the tip of the cord and around the base with either normal saline or just spirit or an alcohol swab. That is just it. You don't have to mess with the cord at all. I've seen many parents, who wanting to cover it with bandages, and all that is not needed at all. It's going to dry out. It's going to fall out on its own within 5 to 10 days. So nothing much is needed as such. Now we come to eye care. So a newborn's eyes are very prone to infections, and sometimes what happens is that in the underdeveloped and disadvantaged communities, if the mother has infection in the vaginal tract, that goes into the eyes of the newborn. So when a newborn is born, you have to clean its eyes with a sterile cotton swab and saline, each eye separately. And aside from that, you have to keep, make sure that whenever you're touching the newborn, your hands are clean, and try to avoid touching the face area as much as possible. You have to wash. The mother has to be very, very hygienic about her own self. Otherwise, whatever infection she is carrying or whatever infection she has, it's going to go into the baby. And no kajal application. So in Indian communities, I think all of us have seen babies with huge amounts of kajal in their eyes. And that is something which is very, very deleterious to babies' health, because kajal can cause conjunctivitis, it can cause infections, and it can even lead to blindness. So if you do see any relatives, babies, or any babies around you with kajal on their eyes, please, please, please tell them not to put it. It's very harmful. One thing you have to ensure before leaving the hospital is that you must ask your healthcare provider if a vitamin K injection has been given at birth or not. Because vitamin K is something that a baby's body is deficient in, and that can lead to a bleeding disorder known as hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. So it's a routine practice in all setups in all hospitals to give vitamin K within 2 hours of life, but you must check, in case it's been missed, you must insist that vitamin K injection should be. Now, the baby should be dressed in preferably cotton, loose, soft clothes. And of course, if it's winter, woolen clothes are needed. But if woolen clothes are needed, try not to, put it directly on the baby's skin. A soft cloth, a cotton cloth, linen cloth should be placed, which is directly in contact with the baby's skin. And whatever woolens are needed should be dressed on top of that, because the woolen cloth is harsh. So it can cause allergic reactions on contact dermatitis to the baby's skin. So you must be careful about not putting woolen clothes directly onto the baby. Nappies, of course, should be, of a very soft material, because diapers can often cause rashes. So in the first few days, we tell parents to avoid using diapers because they can cause rashes and other skin issues for the diaper dermatitis for the baby. So, any linen cloth which is clean can be used as a nappy. So this is a picture of a normal, healthy newborn sleeping its way. Yeah. So, many parents get very alarmed because the baby loses weight in the first few days of life. Now, this is a very normal phenomena because once the baby is in the womb, it has a lot of extra fluid and it has a lot of, extra stuff in it, which gradually starts coming off once it's out in the world. So, in the first few days of life, basically first 1 week of life, 5 to 8, even 10% of body weight is lost. So if a baby is born of say 3 kg, it's not unusual to see the fifth or sixth day weight to be, around 2.5, 2.6 kg. It's not unusual at all because some amount of weight loss is normal in the first 7 days of life. And that is regained at the end of the first week up to 10 days. So suppose at the end of 10 days, the birth weight and the weight of the on day 10 is normal. That is the same, is absolutely a normal phenomena. There's nothing to worry about. And after that, of course, there's approximately 30 gram a day weight gain for the next months. So that is a weight pattern that parents should be aware of, because otherwise they get very worried that our baby is either, very is losing weight or is not gaining weight. And this is just something which people can be made aware of so that they don't worry. Immunization, of course, is very, very, very important. At birth, in Indian settings, we give BCG, OPV, that is oral polio, and hepatitis B. And at the time of discharge, you must ensure that these vaccinations have been given. BCG is, of course, a tuberculosis vaccine. Hepatitis B and oral polio are very, very, very important. All of them should be given. And after birth, the next dose is given at the age of 6 weeks. So if you have you'll be given an immunization card at your hospital. You must keep checking the card, and you must go for your immunization appointments very, very stringently, because it's not something which you can afford to miss at all. And then, of course, once the baby is discharged from the hospital, you plan a discharge. You ask them to come after 2 weeks if all is well, and you give a few supplements like vitamin D supplements so that the growth is proper and the bones can develop in a good way. Right. So, just a few common problems in newborns that I encountered. One is, of course, excessive crying. So, what happens is that, once you have a baby, it's your first baby, and you're a new mother, you don't understand how much crying is excessive crying, because a newborn is communicating with the way of its cry. So, a certain amount of crying is normal. So it will cry when it's hungry, it will cry when it's wet, it will cry when it's having a little bit of gas, it will cry for everything. But at the same time, you have to be aware that I think the definition is more than 3 hours at a stretch. If the baby is crying, then that is an excessive cry. And that could be because of several reasons. Most common reason for this is intestinal colic. That means that there's gas being made in the baby's tummy. And for that, there are a few things that we tell mothers, that if your baby is having a lot of gas, you must avoid green leafy vegetables in your diet. And you can give the baby a drops. It's a Ayurvedic preparation. In fact, it's not something which we recommend a lot, but it's shown to give a lot of babies relief. So it's called Colicate drops, and that is just got fennel and some, herbal stuff. So you don't have to worry about it much, and you can safely give it. It's safe. So, aside from that, there could be superficial infections like skin pustules, there could be umbilical sepsis, or there could be conjunctivitis, oral thrush is all very common problems in the neonate. Oral thrush is a candida infection, a fungal infection in the mouth, which is basically a white layering inside the baby's mouth. Conjunctivitis is basically pus from the baby's eyes. This is also very common, just requires eye drops. Sepsis, of course, is a serious problem, and I'll be discussing about that later. Skin pustules, 1 or 2 are normal. If they are more than 10, or if there's a single large size boil, that is a cause of alarm. So you should be aware of how many pustules are there. And of course, blocked nasolacrimal duct is when the baby's eyes keep on watering. So this is a very, very common problem, and the mother will come and say ki aankh se pani chhoot raha hai, band hi nahi ho raha. So then for this, there's a massage that we teach the mothers, which has to be done before feeding. It's called the nasolacrimal duct massage. And doing that massage constantly for a few days, it usually does the trick. But if it doesn't, then you have to go for a needle probing. And of course, the ophthalmologists do that. So that is it's a rare scenario. Usually, it opens up with the massage. Right. So I'm going to talk about a certain number of minor peculiarities that are there in all newborns. They're very common, but because they are unusual, so parents usually get alarmed because of these issues. So I'm just going to walk you through them and show you some pictures as well, so that you can understand that this is a normal phenomena and not to worry too much. And if you're still very worried, you can, of course, show your pediatrician once and get it checked out. But these are very normal phenomena in the newborn, and they should not be stressed about. So the first one is erythema toxicum. So this is basically a red rash which appears on the second or third day in a term baby. And it usually starts in the face and spreads to the trunk and extremities in 24 hours. It disappears on its own in 2 to 3 days. There's absolutely no need to worry about it. I'm going to show you a picture of erythema toxicum. This is erythema toxicum. So of course, it looks very scary. And to a new mother, this kind of rash in the baby can be very alarming. So this is erythema toxicum. It disappears on its own. Nothing has to be done about it. Absolutely nothing. This is also erythema toxicum. Right. Second thing, of course, is peeling skin. So a lot of babies after birth, their skin starts to peel. And this is a very common thing. The good and the best treatment for this is coconut oil. Don't go for any Johnson's baby, anything. Just go for pure, unadulterated coconut oil. And you can even go for olive oil, but in my experience, coconut oil is better for newborns always. So yeah, you can, stick with coconut oil. Third thing is melia. So there are these I would say small lesions on the baby's skin, white colored. They're called melia, and they often alarm mothers. This is melia. So this on the faces, this is melia. And this is not something which you should stress about. It disappears on its own. It's just a collection of sebum. And there's something called Mongolian spots. Now, Mongolian spots are blue spots at the back of the baby. And they look like there's an accumulation of blood, or they just look very scary, but it's nothing. It's just a normal newborn phenomena, and it disappears on its own in a few days. Right. So the next is subconjunctival hemorrhage. So there could be a small red spot in your baby's eye. Yeah, this one. So this could be there, and this is again nothing to worry about. It resolves on its own. Then there's Epstein pearls. Epstein pearls are basically small white granules inside your baby's mouth. So this is also normal. This is an Epstein pearl, this thing here, the white spot. Right. Then, of course, there's something called a tongue tie, where the tongue is attached to the base of the mouth. This is tongue tie. So this, of course, doesn't cause problems at birth. It causes problems later on when children are supposed to start speaking. They're not able to speak. This is the commonest problem related to delayed speech in children. So this, of course, has to be, it's quite common. So it has to be taken to an ENT specialist who has to surgically fix this problem. Right. So umbilical hernia is another. This is umbilical hernia. The umbilicus is, as you can see, inflated, and hernia is basically a protrusion of the baby's intestine into that space. This is nothing to worry about, but if your baby does have umbilical hernia, you should ask your doctor to get one thyroid test done. That is the only thing that you need to do with umbilical hernia, and then it usually resolves on its own. So there's nothing to do about it. Right. Another few common problems that are seen in neonates are there's physiological gynecomastia or mastitis neonatorum. That is basically breast enlargement in neonates. This is what it looks like, and it's quite alarming for a lot of parents, but this is a very normal phenomena, and it occurs because the mother's estrogen levels come into the baby and they cause this sort of transient breast enlargement. There's nothing to worry about. A lot of people, especially from the disadvantaged backgrounds, they say हम सिकाई कर देते हैं, हम मालिश कर देते हैं, कुछ नहीं करना है. Nothing has to be done. Any kind of sikai, anything will only make things worse, and it might cause an infection. So absolutely nothing has to be done for these issues. Right. And in female babies, sometimes a small amount of vaginal bleeding and vaginal secretions are seen at the time of birth or a few days after birth. So again, very, very alarming for parents. So please, you should, if there's a baby around you and it has such a problem, there's no need to worry. Again, it's because of the maternal hormonal influence. That withdrawal of maternal hormones causes this vaginal bleeding. It's absolutely normal. It settles in a few days. So these pictures we've already gone through. Another one which I missed in the slide there is natal teeth. So very commonly, a baby is born with a few teeth, just like it's shown in the picture. Again, nothing to worry about, falls off on its own. Right. So these were all the conditions that you needn't worry about, right? And all of them are very benign. All of them are very self-resolving. No medical attention, no pediatric attention is needed. And the other spectrum of things is when you have a serious illness in your newborn. So this is how you're going to, just excuse me 1 minute. I'm going to take a small break.
Thank you, Dr. Radhika. It's a wonderful presentation and it's letting all of us learn so much about this issue. In the meantime, audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the chat box right there, and Dr. Radhika will be addressing the questions one by one. Once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining this webinar. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute or two. This is a very short pause. All right. Thank you, Dr.
I'm
Radhika.
so sorry for the
No
disturbance.
worries.
I'm sitting in my living room, and some delivery person has come.
No worries. No
That's fine.
worries.
Yeah. So I'll continue now.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of background noise? I'm so
No,
sorry.
please continue.
Right. So how do you detect a serious disease in your newborn? That's what, what are the danger signs in a newborn, and how do you recognize it early so that it's not missed and you can go to your doctor immediately? Once again, I'm stressing these are the points which warrant your attention, which warrant a little bit of panic, and which warrant a visit to the nearest emergency room. So these signs are as follows: bleeding from any side. If a baby is bleeding from its nose, bleeding from its umbilical stump, bleeding from anywhere, bleeding is a cause of concern. Jaundice appearing less than 1 day of life. Of course, a little amount of jaundice is normal, but maybe day 4, day 5, that is called breast milk jaundice. Breastfeeding jaundice doesn't usually require anything. But if the jaundice is appearing at less than 1 day, less than 24 hours of life, it requires urgent medical attention. If the jaundice is very deep, it's appearing on, say, day 3, day 4, but it's very deep yellow colored, and the baby has got yellow eyes, yellow feet, yellow hands, cause of concern, immediately take to the doctor. If your baby has not passed stool, meconium is the first stool which the baby passed. If he hasn't passed stool in 24 hours, the first stool, I'm stressing on the first stool, normal newborns usually don't pass stool every day. So if a normal breastfed newborn is not passing stool in the next for 3 or 4 days, it's not a problem. But if your baby has just been born and it's been 24 hours, it hasn't passed its meconium, then you should be concerned. If the baby has not passed urine in 48 hours of birth, that is another cause of concern. These 2 points are very important. If the baby is throwing out the feed, regurgitating milk, vomiting out the milk, or is having loose stools. Now again, for loose stools, it's a very ambiguous term here, because babies in general pass a little bit of loose stool every time they have a feed. It's a very normal phenomena. It's called gastrocolic reflux. Now, the way to differentiate these loose stools from, say, pathological loose stools is very simple. If your baby is feeding well, if he's passing urine normally, you don't need to worry. If the baby is, getting lethargic, he's passing big amounts of stools, then it's of course something to worry about. Then, of course, poor feeding, lethargy, and excessive sleepiness. If the baby is not taking feed, the baby is very lethargic. In Hindi, the mother say ki ye to sust pada hai. So he's not being active as he usually is. He's not crying well. Excessive sleepiness. He's going on sleeping. So that's a problem. There's any excessive frothiness from the mouth, like mothers come and say jhaag aa raha hai muh se. So that is of course a problem. It points towards a neurological problem. And drooling of saliva, of course. Then if the baby is cold to touch, like I explained, the hands and feet shouldn't be cold, the head shouldn't be cold, or if the baby is running a fever of more than 99.5 or 100°F. Then, of course, if the baby's abdomen is distended, if he's having, if he's breathing very fast, he's breathing very fast, and you can see the chest muscles moving. What they say in Hindi is कि madam pasliyan chal rahi hain. So pasli chalna, and you can see retractions in the chest. You can see the chest muscles moving. You can see the baby grunting. They make these weird grunting noises, which are a sign of respiratory distress. Grunting, groaning, uh, all these are signs. Very fast breathing, difficulty in breathing, all these are signs of a serious respiratory illness, has to be checked out immediately. Right. Convulsions. Now, convulsions, of course, epileptic fits, as we call them in layman terms, seizures jisko kehte hain. Can be many types of seizures, and in neonates, of course, it's difficult to recognize a seizure. So I've got a video of a neonate seizing, so I'm going to show that to you, and maybe you can help you recognize it if it, God forbid, ever happens with your own baby. Not feeding, like I said, more than 10 pus-filled lesions or a single large boil, or any obvious congenital malformation. So for congenital malformations, they can be of many types. Some are, of course, inside the body and you can't see, like they could be diaphragmatic hernia, they can be an intestinal obstruction, there can be things which you're not aware of, you can't see. But some, of course, are very obvious, they are visible. Like a picture here of a cleft lip and cleft palate. Of course, you can see it's a problem and it's a malformation. You have to get it checked out. You have to tell your doctor that this is a problem with the baby. This is, of course, a jaundiced infant. Like I said, deep jaundice. So this is a clear example of deep jaundice. This is not what a normal baby looks like. A normal baby is pink. This baby is yellow, completely yellow, and it requires urgent medical attention. This is what I was talking about with more than 10 pustules, and साथ में there are scaling, hyperchromic macules. So there are, of course, multiple pustules. It's a sign of infection. This baby is quite sick. Right, so this is a baby having a convulsion. So I'm just going to play the video and you can see what it looks like when a baby has a convulsion. You can see the leg is moving. Even the chest is moving. So this is a sign of respiratory distress as well. You can see the chest muscles moving. So these are all signs of very serious illness in a baby. Should not be ignored at any cost. Right. So with this, I come to the end of danger signs. And, these are all the signs you should be aware of. They warrant urgent medical attention, like I said. Now, coming to certain practices which are very prevalent in Indian society, but are very, very harmful for babies. And in fact, this is a very big part of my nonprofit work, Every Infant Matters, that we counsel mothers and counsel families on the good practices in childhood and to avoid these specific bad practices in childhood. So these are things which have to be avoided at all costs. Now, in Indian communities, one thing which is very common is something called guthi. Like, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's basically a glucose emulsion with a bit of alcohol and a bit of steroid in it. So, it's in Indian disadvantaged communities, it's always said कि गुट्ठी देने से बच्चे की ग्रोथ अच्छी होगी. अब आप उसको और वो बच्चा अगर फीड नहीं कर रहा है, आप उसको ये गुट्ठी दे दो. अब of course it's so sweet that the children love it. Secondly, it has alcohol, so the minute they have it, they calm down and they sleep off. So it's sort of a win-win situation, but it's a very harmful thing to give to a baby. It causes huge amounts of infections, and what these people do is that they take a unsterile cotton swab, they make a wick out of it, and they dip it in this whatever honey preparation, and they sort of drop it drop by drop into the baby's mouth. So this is something which has to be avoided at all costs. And in fact, it's just heartbreaking the way these children are exposed to such toxins without even their parents being aware about it. So that's something which we have to change. Second, of course, a lot of babies are given honey. I'm going to stress on this again. Before 6 months, you don't even have to give water, let alone honey. Nothing. Breast milk is absolutely essential is absolutely essential and absolutely enough for the baby for the first 6 months of life. You don't need anything else. Third thing, a very common practice is gripe water. Gripe water again is an alcoholic preparation. It is said that babies who have gas should be given gripe water so that their tummies don't pain. Absolute nonsense. Gripe water is nothing but an alcohol preparation. Puts the babies to sleep and it calms them down. That's why it's very, very popular. And even I know of very well-off educated people who have been giving their baby gripe water, and that causes infections and sepsis and whatnot. And it's just a horrible practice. Don't do it. Right. And the next thing, of course, is kajal on eyes. I've already explained how harmful that is. A lot of villages, disadvantaged communities apply cow dung on the umbilical stump. So I don't even need to tell you what sort of a travesty that is, and what sort of effects it can cause in a baby. So better to not apply anything, let alone cow dung, on the umbilical stump. Nothing is needed. It's going to shrivel off, fall down on its own. Absolutely nothing is needed. Indigenous herbs. इतनी बार we hear patients will come कि बाबा जी के पास लेके गए थे, उन्होंने कोई पुड़िया में दवाई दी थी, उसमें it's either it's steroid or it's some nonsense which will really harm the baby, so not to be given at all. This is of course that gutti business which I was talking about, 555 and something, and this is that gripe water. Gripe water is worldwide famous for some reason, just because it calms babies down. Coming to other things, Ayurvedic preparations, of course, like I said, animal milk in the first 6 months or water has to be completely avoided. Animal milk, in fact, for the first 1 year should be avoided. It's not recommended. The baby's intestines cannot handle that amount of protein level and they get very sick. So, no animal milk. At any cost, breastfeeding must not be stopped. If you have a newborn and you think the baby's having diarrhea, a lot of mothers, what they do, if the baby's having diarrhea, they'll stop breastfeeding, and that causes a even worse reaction. Baby will get dehydrated. It will completely, go into a shock if you stop breastfeeding. So, you're not supposed to stop breastfeeding at any cost. Every 1.5 hours, the baby must be breastfed. Bottle feeding has to be avoided. I know of well-off people. I know of non-well-off people. Bottle feeding is like a pandemic. It's worse than COVID. And what bottle feeding does is that, of course, you cannot always be completely hygienic with the bottle, and the baby is putting the bottle in its mouth. It's going to get diarrhea, and it's going to fall sick. So bottle feeding must be avoided at any cost. Last thing, of course, is consulting which doctors or religious gurus to treat a sick child. Please don't do that. Please don't. When your baby is sick, please go to an allopathic doctor, and please discourage those around you for going to these people for treatments, because they do a lot of they carry out a lot of practices which are very harmful. I'll show you a picture later on. Right, so this is of course a gutti fed baby. As you can see, it's all plump and bloated up, and mostly because this gutti preparation has a steroid in it. So steroid makes these babies all plump, and it makes it difficult for them to lose this weight later on. You can see the marks on the baby's chest. So this baby was brought to my OPD, and he was taken to religious Sadhu Baba for treatment. And what that Babaji did was he took an iron rod, he burnt it, and he branded the child's chest with that, because he said it will ward off the diseases and ward off the evil spirits. These are the kind of shameful practices that are going on in Indian communities. And this is something we really, all of us need to really get together and put a stop to these. But I don't know how that's going to happen. Right, so we almost come to the end of what all I have had to tell you. And just last summary of everything. What is the criteria of a normal newborn? And what is the, a lot of parents worry about the heart rate being a little more than normal, temperature being something. So just going to walk you through what is normal for a baby. So gestation, of course, 37 to 42 completed weeks inside the uterus is normal. A birth weight of 2.5 to 3.99 grams. Breathing has to be spontaneous. It has to be regular. Babies can take 10 seconds pauses between breaths, but more than 10 seconds should not be there. right? And the respiratory rate can be between 30 and 60. More than 60 is a warning sign. The color of the baby has to be pink. Slight cyanosis, slight bluish tinge on the legs after birth is normal, but that resolves within 1 to 2 hours. So beyond that is again a cause of concern. Heart rate of up to 160 is absolutely normal in a newborn, not to worry about it. Then temperature, of course, axillary temperature of 97.5 to 99.5 is considered normal. Anything above 100, I would say, is a cause of concern. Of course, you don't need to get into all this. This is pure pediatrics, but it's just the measurements we take and what is normal. So it's head circumference, length, chest circumference. The baby should suck soon after birth. It should sleep 18 hours a day. Then the ear cartilage should be firm with a good elastic recoil. A breast nodule should be more than 5 mm. Liver palpable is normal. Enlarged liver is normal in babies. For male babies, the testes should be within the scrotum. They are deeply pigmented, scrotum adequate. Okay. Females, the labia minora is covered completely by the labia majora. The soles have anterior two-third part of the soles, like the front two-third part of the soles have deep creases, and that's absolutely normal. Now, in a baby, the muscle tone is increased by adult standards. So, if you've noticed a baby, they're always flexed. They never lose like that. If they are loose, if their body is completely loose and extended, then that's a cause of worry. That means that the muscle tone is less than normal. And usually, a normal baby will have hands folded, legs folded. It'll be in an attitude of flexion. So that's normal. Most babies will pass urine within 24 hours, some pass in 48 hours. Most of them pass meconium within 24 to 48 hours. There should be no apparent congenital anomalies. Of course, the hidden ones you cannot be expected to see. Yeah, I think that is the end of everything that I had to teach you today. And I'll just end with a quote that it is a smile of a baby that makes life worth living. And I hope this presentation could put a smile on all of your faces. And that's of course a picture of me in the neonatal ICU. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Radhika. That was truly a wonderful presentation. You've thrown light on various aspects of newborn care and even debunked common and very harmful myths faced by parents. So now I would request the audience to please feel free, ask your questions. Dr. Radhika will be answering them. If you want, you can write them in the comment section. All right. So we have Komal. She asked Dr. Radhika if she would suggest electric breast pump. She has seen many doing that.
So I think it should be avoided as much as possible because it's of course an unnatural way of doing things. So if the only place where I would say I would recommend an electric breast pump is when the milk is production is way too much and the mother is having retention of milk and the baby is not able to consume it. So it's the breasts of the mother, they get bloated up and they get very heavy and it becomes very uncomfortable for her. So in those conditions, we advise mothers to pump a little and throw it out, because that will relieve the pressure a little bit. Of course, a lot of mothers use it if the baby is not, taking breastfeed. They use it to pump and give expressed breast milk. But again, I would not recommend that practice because that sets the unhealthy precedent. See, a baby when it's born, it does not know what it has to do. It does not know how it has to behave. It has to be conditioned like anybody else in the world. So once a baby is born, you have to put it into the habit of suckling from your chest, not drip. If you start dripping the milk directly into its mouth with a spoon, it's never going to make that effort, and that's not going to benefit anyone in the long run. So I would say, in a worst case scenario, yes, you can use it, but try to be as natural about things as possible.
That's right. Okay, so Komal, I hope that answered your question. She is also asking if malish should be done. Please give me a moment. Yeah, is
Yeah, of
malish
course.
suggested?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So malish with, like I said, coconut oil or olive oil should be done. Of course, it should be done by someone who's not very, who's trained in the malish, not very aggressive with the malish that can cause injuries. So be careful of that. And secondly, you should avoid stuff like sarson ka tel and Johnson's baby oil and these commercial oils. I would personally recommend to avoid them because I've seen several babies with skin allergies due to these oils. So stick to your pure coconut oil and adulterated without any, problems. So just, I think that's the best way to do it.
All right, all right. We have another question here. We have Lena asking what to do if the baby doesn't pass stool for 3 days or goes stool after 3 to 4 days.
So for newborns, it's absolutely normal, specifically if the baby is exclusively breastfed. So it's absolutely normal for it to not pass stool for 3 to 4 days, right? But if you feel like he's getting very cranky and he's not taking feed, he's being very irritable, then of course you can ask your doctor for it's been like 3 4 days. You can ask a doctor for a pediatric suppository which you can insert per rectally. Nothing else works. You can just take a little bit of ghee on your little finger and stimulate the anal area. I've seen that has worked for many mothers, and nothing more is usually needed. Yeah.
All right, we have lots of questions coming in. We have Himali asking if a mother has excessive gastric problem during pregnancy. Just please give me a moment. They're coming up one after the other. Right. So if a mother has excessive gastric problem during pregnancy, will this problem pass on to the baby? That's a question.
What is the kind of gastric problem? See, if it's something like acid reflux or just some gas or something, it's not going to do anything. But if it's, of course, if it's a viral infection or if it's a serious infectious disease, then I would say, of course, it's a cause of worry, but not otherwise. So if she could specify the whatever disease she's talking about, so I'll be able to
Himali,
shed some more.
please write in the chat if possible. We can
Yeah,
help you.
just specify what disease you're talking about.
In the meantime, we have Sonalika Puri. She's asking what to do if after cesarean breast milk doesn't come up. Do you recommend giving formula milk?
So, after cesareans, what happens is that the mother is recovering from a major surgery and, she has stitches, she's unable to feed the baby. So, in those cases, 2 3 things we do. Matlab, it's not ideal, but we give a formula feed known as lactogen 1. But that is, of course, also after we given the first feed, which we encourage the mother to either express and, some relative to feed with the katori chamach or just, just the mother not feeding is not a good idea. But as much as possible she should feed. If she's having a lot of pain or she's sedated or something, then of course lactogen 1 is the formula of choice. At no cost should any kind of animal milk or any tea. I have heard of a mother who gave her newborn child tea because she couldn't her milk was not coming up. So these things should absolutely not be. Should always ask your doctor what to do, and if your doctor recommends it, then yes, formula feed lactogen 1 is a decent idea, I would say, next best option. But of course breast milk is the ideal there.
Understood, understood. So Himali has clarified that it's normal gastric problem causing abdominal discomfort, nothing more serious.
Nothing will happen. She just has to be careful about what medication she's taking for it. Just has to get it checked out from her gynecologist if if the medicine is safe in pregnancy or not.
Right. So we also have Komal asking, can we keep baby in air-conditioned room, say if the weather is warm, March, April in Chennai?
If the baby is a newborn, like just born, I would say avoid air conditioning as much as possible. Keep the baby very well covered. Especially if it's a low birth weight baby, I would say completely avoid air conditioning. But if it's a healthy baby, normal birth weight, keep it very well covered and as far as possible, avoid air conditioning, according to me.
Fair enough. So I hope that answered your question, Komal. She's also asking how many hours should newborn sleep usually daily? Any routine to be maintained?
So with newborns, it's always they're very temperamental, and it differs from baby to baby. Like I've seen babies which sleep for 18 hours a day, and they don't sleep in the night at all. I've seen babies who immediately after feeding sleep off. So they're very temperamental that way. Approximately, I would say 16 to 18.
All right. Thanks, doctor. Let's see if we have. Okay. So Komal is thanking you for answering the questions. Thank you, Komal, for asking and joining in. We also have Lena asking, can we give both milk at time, means breast milk and formula milk, as I have less breast milk?
So, in this situation, I would suggest that as far as possible, avoid the formula milk as much as possible. And if you feel like your breast milk is not adequate for your baby, you can always take these lactogenic granules known as Lactavase. I can drop the name in the chat box if you want it. 2 teaspoons with milk every day should increase your milk production effectively. And even if you feel like the milk is not enough, let the baby suckle as much as possible. Because, like I said, that will trigger off that cycle to your hypothalamus and your brain, that will cause the required hormones to be produced, which have to get the milk to start producing more. So let the baby suckle as much as possible, have the lactogenic granules, and then there are signs to see if the baby is full or not. So if a baby is falling asleep peacefully after feeding, then of course it's full. It's not going to fall asleep peacefully if it's not full. If it's passing urine adequately, if the weight gain is normal, these are all signs of adequate feeding. So keep an eye out for them. And if you feel like the baby is feeding adequately, I don't think you need to worry. But you can just take Lactavase or any other lactogenic preparation in your milk every day.
She does ask suggestions to increase the breast milk production.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So just have that those granules every day in milk, two teaspoons. That should be enough.
Great, thank you. So, all right, she's thanking us as well. Let's just give it a minute or two to have other questions come up. After which we can wrap up soon. Let's just give it a moment, Doctor.
Yeah.
Also, Komal has to ask, can mothers eat anything after delivery or stick to non-spicy food? Okay, diet, she's asking.
So of course, this depends from house to house. I think spicy food they ask you to avoid because it causes gastric disturbance. I don't think there's any relation to breast milk and everything. But again, there are certain households in India who say 40 days tak nahi khana hai and all that. But scientifically speaking, I don't think it's a problem for the baby. It could be a problem for the mother, knowing that she might be on some medications which might cause gastric distress if her diet is too spicy. So
that's right.
Right.
Also, Sonalika asks, if after 6 months, do you recommend steamed or boiled vegetables for baby led weaning?
Yeah, so okay, so during weaning is another aspect altogether. So at 6 months, we encourage mothers to start weaning with a few tablespoons of dal ka pani every day. That's how you start, because you have to give something which is liquidy, which is not going to be very strenuous on the baby's gut. So you start with few teaspoons of dal ka pani, okay, and then you try to add again, like she's saying, soft mashed vegetables and all you can add. Initially try to stick to things which have the feel of milk, so that the baby's gut and its whole system gets used to the change gradually. So you can give suji in milk pakake, you can give apples steamed in milk, you can give suji ka halwa patla karke, you can give dal, like I said, dal, so you have to give dal ka pani. Right, so these are the things you usually start off with your weaning with. You can give mashed banana after a few days, right? And steamed vegetables, you can try. Of course, I have not experienced it firsthand myself, but there's no harm in steaming vegetables and mashing them. You have to mash them and puree them, and only then will you be able to give it to the child at 6 months of age. Of course, later on you can stop the pureeing as the child grows up, but initially you might have to puree it.
All right, thanks. I hope that answered Sonalika's question. So, any other questions, please mention them below in the chat box. And to conclude, I would like to thank Dr. Radhika for joining the session today. You have imparted a lot of knowledge that we all have learned a lot from. And apart from that, the audience for your gracious presence, all of you joined. And a vote of thanks is extended to Cartilla Health India for organizing these informative sessions. you can go to Google Play Store and download both our applications, Cartula Janani and Cartula Health, the telemedicine application, and make use of them. We have another question coming up. All right, Dr. Vijayendra is thanking Dr. Radhika for the presentation. It's been very, thank you, Dr. Vijayendra. Really appreciate. All right.
Thank you, Devana. Thank you to everybody at Cartula for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I had a great time as well, and I hope all of you benefited. And of course, just drop in my email if there's any query that anybody has. They can always reach out on LinkedIn or on email, whatever they would like.
I think they can search for Dr. Radhika Batra and yeah, they'll find you there. Thank you so much. And to all of you, we'll be back very soon with our next session on a similar healthcare topic. And until then, goodbye, stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.